Hey, it's Mr. Zombie. Tonight's story isn't about what's outside your door. It's about what waits behind it. Every building has its own sounds, creaks, pipes, steps. But sometimes it's the light that betrays you. This is The Hallway Lights, a story about a man who lived alone, except for the light that kept turning on every night at 3:17. Part The Hallway Lights. I'd lived in that old apartment building for 5 months before I noticed the pattern. The hallway outside my door was always silent after midnight. No voices, no steps, only the distant hum of the boiler. Then, one night, as I sat half asleep on the couch, the strip light in the corridor clicked on. Not a flicker, a full, sudden flash that spilled through the gap beneath the door. I checked the clock, 3:17 a.m. I waited, expecting to hear someone walk past. Nothing. After about a minute, the light went out. I told myself it was a motion sensor, maybe triggered by the building settling. Still, when I opened the door, the hallway was empty and cold, the kind of cold that comes from concrete, not air. The next night, the same thing, 3:17 on the dot. The light hissed, then glowed bright enough to paint the walls white. I stood by the peephole, heart thudding, watching the faint shadow of my own shoes on the floor. Something else moved at the edge of the light, a dark curve, quick and wrong, like someone leaning forward, then vanishing. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I asked Mrs. Heller from 4B if she'd seen the hallway light turn on at night. She frowned. "There's no motion sensor there," she said. "It's on a timer. Shuts off at midnight." She laughed nervously. "You must have dreamed it." That evening, I left my door chained and kept the lights off, phone ready to record. 3:16, nothing. 3:17, the corridor flared alive again, brighter than before. The light buzzed, stuttering like something struggling to stay on. Through the crack under the door, a shadow moved past, not toward the stairwell, not away from it. Just stopped. It stayed there for nearly a minute. I could hear breathing, slow, steady, right on the other side. Then a soft tap, tap, tap against the door. 3 times. Precise. Measured. Like someone counting. I whispered, "Who's there?" No answer. Only the light flickering. Each flash slower than the last, until darkness swallowed the hallway again. When I checked my phone, the recording had stopped at 3:17, exactly as before. The file name read automatically, HL 317-1. I never named it that. The next morning, I tried to play the recording again. The first 5 seconds were normal. A dim view of the hallway door, the faint hum of electricity. Then, just before 3:17, the image glitched. The light turned on, flooding the lens in white, but for a single frame, less than a blink, there was a shape. A figure standing perfectly still, facing my door. No features. Just a pale outline that reached almost to the ceiling. I paused the video, heart hammering. When I scrubbed back, the frame was gone. The file now stopped at 5 seconds. Completely normal. Like it had erased itself. That night, I sat by the door again, the phone charging, camera on. 3:16 came and went. Silence. For the first time in days, the light didn't come on. I almost laughed. Maybe the building fixed it. Maybe I had been seeing things. Then I heard a click, deeper in the hallway this time. One of the other lights turned on. Then another. A slow, spreading chain of illumination, like someone walking down the corridor, triggering each bulb. Only I didn't hear any footsteps. When the glow reached my door, I looked through the peephole. The light at the far end of the hall flickered. And in that flicker, I saw something move, a tall, thin shape, stepping out a stairwell. It didn't walk. It slid. I slammed the bolt shut and backed away. The lights outside kept buzzing, blinking faster now, one after another, until the entire hallway strobed like a dying camera flash. Then came the tapping again. Soft. Measured. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. I held my breath, gripping the handle, expecting it to turn. But it didn't. After a long silence, the lights went out all at once. I waited an hour before opening the door. The corridor was black, only the faint red exit sign at the end. Something was lying on the floor just outside, A single bulb from the ceiling fixture, still warm. When I looked up, the socket above my door was empty. The next day, I went to the building office. The manager, a man in his 60s, listened quietly. Then he said, "You're on the third floor, right?" I nodded. He frowned. "There's no light above your door. That fixture's been dead for years. Power cut off to that line in 2018. I just stared at him. He sighed and stood. "Look, that building's old. Circuits hum sometimes. Don't worry about it." He handed me a key card. "We've got one empty room on the first floor if you want to move down. Some tenants don't like that hallway." That night, I decided to move. But when I started packing, the hallway light flickered again. I looked at the clock, 3:17. The bulb was glowing. The socket was still empty. And the glow wasn't coming from above anymore. It was coming from a floor, a thin, white line stretching under my door, pulsing softly, like it was breathing. I stared at the thin line of light creeping through the crack beneath the door. It pulsed, dim to bright, like something alive on the other side was exhaling. For a long time, I couldn't move, just stood there, listening. No footsteps. No sound from the pipes or the elevator. Only the faint hum of electricity, as if the light itself were straining to stay on. Then came a sound I'll never forget, soft scratching. Not at the door, but under it. Something small dragging lightly across the floor, moving back and forth, faster each time, like fingers searching for a gap. I whispered without meaning to, "Who's there?" The scratching stopped. Then, slow and deliberate, 3 taps. Always 3. I stepped closer, phone in hand, the camera open. When I crouched, I could see it clearly. The glow was no longer white. It had turned faintly yellow, like old light through fog glass. I lifted the phone, recording. In the screen, I saw something pressed against the floor from the other side. Not a shadow, not a hand, but an eye, perfectly round, wide open. It blinked once. I fell back, hitting the wall behind me. The camera flickered, the image distorting into static lines. Then the light under the door went out. I didn't sleep. I sat with the kitchen light on until dawn, staring at the door. When morning came, the hallway was normal again, quiet, empty. I found nothing on the recording except a few seconds of white light. No sound, no eye. But when I tried to delete the file, my phone froze. The name had changed. It now read HL 317-2. That afternoon, I went down to the first floor to see the room the manager offered. The hallway was shorter there, newer, brighter. When I asked where the power switches for the third floor were, he looked confused. Third floor doesn't have individual switches. They're sealed. You shouldn't be seeing any light there at all. He handed me the new key, smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just move before the weekend, all right?" I nodded. He didn't ask why I looked so pale. Back upstairs, I found the door to my apartment slightly open. I hadn't left it that way. Inside, every light was off, except the one in the hallway. It glowed faintly through the crack again. 3:17, though it was still daylight. I heard the taps. 3 slow, hollow thuds, like knuckles against wood. But this time, they weren't coming from outside the door. They were coming from inside the walls. The first tap came from behind the kitchen wall. Then the second, inside the hallway. By the third, the sound was directly behind my head. 3 taps. A pause. Then 3 more. Like it was counting the minutes. The light under the door began to pulse again, brighter this time, spreading along the floorboards, creeping toward the center of the room. It wasn't spilling in from the hallway anymore. It was coming up through the cracks in the floor, seeping through the seams like water. I backed away, phone shaking in my hand, recording everything. The brightness built until the entire room was glowing. No shadows left, no corners dark enough to hide in. And yet, somehow, I could feel something standing behind me. I didn't turn around. I just whispered, "Please stop." The light flared once, then vanished. I woke up hours later on the floor. Morning sunlight bled through the window blinds, normal, warm, harmless. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined the whole thing. Then I saw my phone lying beside me. It was still recording. The file name, HL317-3. The timestamp, 3:17 a.m. I scrubbed through the video, heart pounding. Most of it was static, white noise, then dark shapes moving where there shouldn't have been any movement at all. In the last few seconds, the camera tilted upward, as if someone else was holding it. Then a voice whispered, hoarse and close to the mic, "You're standing where the light is buried." The video ended. I packed that day. Didn't even tell the manager. By nightfall, I was driving out of town, the whole building shrinking in my rearview mirror. But as I reached the highway, the street lights on either side began to flicker, one by one, in perfect rhythm. I checked the dashboard clock. It read 3:17 a.m. Then, from the back seat, something tapped against the window. 3 times. Measured. Slow. I didn't look. I just kept driving, hoping the light would stay behind me at the end.